Hey everybody, it's time for Old Roommates. Today on the show, we revisit 1988's Cocktail, starring Tom Cruise. So pour yourself a turquoise blue and get ready for some sex on the beach while you're at it, because the show is about to begin.
Welcome, everyone, to Old Roommates, the only podcast that revisits pop culture through a middle-aged lens. This is Christina.
And this is Brian.
And we are revisiting Cocktail from 1988. Tom Cruise, which, this is really funny. When I started watching it, I must have, looked away for a split second. Because it says on the credits, Tom Cruise, then Cocktail.
Right.
Then Brian Brown.
Right.
And I must have turned away for a split second. So I see Cocktail, Brian Brown. I'm like, what? Brian Brown gets top billing? So it was really, and then it said Elizabeth Shue, and I'm like, what? And then it was waiting for and starring. They do the bottom billing, right? So I had to rewind it. I'm like, what the hell happened there? So anyways, it's
hard to imagine Cocktail without Tom Cruise.
Right. Well, it was just funny. I'm like, how did he not get the top billing? But he did. Anyway, so we are revisiting Cocktail with Tom Cruise and Elizabeth Shue and Brian Brown. Brian, tell us the beginning relationship you had with Cocktail.
Cocktail is one of those interesting things because I really didn't like the movie at all. Back when I saw it,
when did you see it? Did you see it in the movies?
Absolutely not. I was, I guess I was 16 when this came out, and but I watched it on VHS because Kokomo was such a huge song, and this movie looked so fun.
Right.
And then when it came out in VHS, imagine my surprise when this was a murky, moody drama, with suicide and depression and alcoholism and betrayed friendships, and very little time is spent in Kokomo land.
Yeah.
And it was not what I signed up for, and I didn't care for the movie. In fact, I loved Elizabeth Shue back then, and she, in my opinion, was sort of barely in it and didn't have much to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I really didn't like, even being that young, being a teenager, when she's like, ta-da, with her boobs on the waterfall, and I felt like she was pressured to do that. I didn't like it. I didn't like the way she was treated because I liked her so much, and Adventures in Babysitting was before this, and as well as The Karate Kid, obviously. So I liked her, and I didn't like the way she was treated in this movie, and I didn't care for the movie at all back then. How about you?
We should revisit Adventures in Babysitting at some point. Anyway.
How about you, Christina?
So I have very little experience with this movie. I saw it a total of one time.
Same.
Yeah. Probably, it was definitely not in the movie theater. I want to say it was a rental. It was definitely a rental.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I even saw it with somebody. I think it was one of those, I don't know, what do I want to rent? I'll just rent this.
Mm-hmm.
Took it home and, watched it. And I don't think I disliked it as much as you did.
Okay.
And I don't think I found it as dark as you did back then. Because when I'm not that I thought about it often, but when we're talking about revisiting it, I thought of it as, that was kind of a light and airy movie. We'll just watch it. So it didn't really have a huge impact on me as far as that deep, dark part of it. I remembered it as being a little bit more fun.
Okay.
And I remembered the relationship with he and Elizabeth Shue. I remembered that part of it. I remember her leaving the island and all that kind of stuff. But I felt like that was more of the central storyline. So diving into now, if you don't mind, it was surprising to me.
You need to pull it way back with your attitude right now, okay?
I will not be pulling anything back.
Clearly, the way you're celebrating this revisit by showing up drunk to our podcast.
We should have
totally have done that.
What is wrong with us? we have been talking about we should have a time where we drink and then have fun, like...
Or like When a Man Loves a Woman, we should watch.
Yes, or Arthur or something. Yeah, some one of those. So anyways, we should have definitely taken that. But
oh my God, go ahead.
Sadly, I am not. So, but diving into now, like, watching this now, I feel like I feel the way you did back then.
Okay.
So Elizabeth Shue was not in it very much.
Oh, no.
In fact, it was a very short period of time when they were even together.
Yeah.
To the point where after she left, I wondered why he would even try to even look her up. Like, I didn't feel like... So, when they were having their moment, and I know this is a shallow dive. We're all over the place. When they were having their little moment, I mean, okay, so in the 80s and the 90s, I've had those moments where you go on vacation, you have a little fling, and it was just, that's what it was. It was a fling. You're in a different country. You're on, on the beach having a little vacation time, and you have a little bit of a fling. And that's exactly what it was. What they did. Walking around, doing fun things, kissing a lot. There was a lot of kissing. And then that was it. Like, it's not like you're going to look each other up. It's not like you're going to pursue this relationship. You're probably living in different areas of the world. He obviously lived on this island at the time.
Yeah.
You're not expecting to have this relationship with this person. So the fact that she left in the middle of the night, okay, that was kind of crappy. You didn't get to say goodbye. But did you really expect to have, like, this long-term relationship with this woman? I don't think either one of them really...
Wait a minute. So they are talking, there's a point where they're talking about having children.
Right. But I felt like it was sort of a jokey kind of conversation, though, because they had just had sex for the first time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're, it's a whirlwind thing. They'd known each other for a total of like 48 hours.
Right.
So I don't think that they were seriously talking. I felt more jokey the way she was like, oh, I don't know. I'm thinking a couple of children. And he's like, children already? I felt like it was more of like a joke. I don't think they were actually seriously thinking they were going to have a relationship.
So you didn't think they had like that kind of chemistry to sustain?
I thought the chemistry they had was more of a
playful
playful. There wasn't a lot at stake, so that's why it's so easy. That's why they just had like this fun, easy thing. That's why, she ended up having sex with him. Like, she's not the type of girl, in my opinion, that she would have sex with somebody after a day.
Yeah, well,
unless it was a fling.
Okay.
And that's what, like, that was the nature of the beast, is having a fling with, like, a little sex. And then that's it, and you go home. But, like, to me, that's what that was.
Just for the people listening, Christina's travel guide will be coming out in a couple of months.
How to have a fling.
Yeah.
No, I didn't do it often. Like, twice maybe. But that was, like, the nature of it. Like, nobody is meeting somebody on vacation in a different country thinking you're going to have an actual relationship. Unless they decided they knew that they lived within a certain amount of space. He lived in Jamaica.
Maybe you're not like that, Christina, but Jordan Mooney is. Okay?
Jordan Mooney.
Well,
why didn't she talk to him about all the money she had then? If this was supposed to be a long-term sustainable
because
relationship.
She didn't want him falling in love with her money. And it's not really her money, it's her dad's money.
Seriously, it's not her money at all.
Christina has thrown me a ginger chew, so there's going to be some unwrapping going on.
Here, I'm going to throw you two more because that's the last of the package.
Oh my God. Well, I don't want to be... You know why you're doing this?
So I can
You're
talk.
so transparent, because you don't want me, because I'm right about things.
So what are you arguing about? Are you saying that they had... that this was a sustainable relationship?
Yeah, I actually do. You know why? Because I was really pissed off that Brian Flanagan would have taken such a cheap bet in trying to seduce Bonnie for $50. He is
so stupid.
He is. We already know he's making $400 a day in tips.
Right.
Why, for $50, is he jeopardizing this beautiful 2-day relationship with Jordan? They're talking about a family. They're talking about spending their lives together. $50 to seduce Bonnie.
Yeah, so that means he was super serious with her.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. But I think he became so pig-headed in this whole thing. And also, by the way, he's not drunk in that scene. He's not drunk.
No.
Bonnie's drunk because he got her drunk.
Here we go again with the 80s, taking advantage of a drunk woman.
1,000%. Bonnie, spoiler alert, is my favorite character.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Yeah, I kind of liked her too.
Yep. Good.
But here's the thing. I have a problem. So, all right. Spoiler alert, I did not like this movie. There you go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Putting it right out there. Ryan, Tom Cruise's character, is just a shitty person.
Mm-hmm.
It is so ridiculous. You talk about the bet, the $50 bet. He is willing to bet anything at any time.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime. The whole relationship with him and Doug is all about bets. Oh, I bet you $50 that she's going to be in bed with somebody else by the weekend. There you go. Another $50. Got his money back. I bet you this, that you can't get her in bed. Oh, okay, there you go. He bet something else. I bet something else. You can't. Almost every interaction he has with this guy, he bets. Every time he loses. This kid, I don't understand the appeal of the betting. I don't understand where this is all coming from. It is absolutely ridiculous. I don't like it at all. He is such a bad character. He doesn't learn. He doesn't have any kind of redemption. In fact, I actually would say he gets worse through the movie. Because you remember at the beginning of the movie, right? The credits are rolling. He's on the bus, right? After his friends, he has good friends, right? Good friends in the military. They risk it all, to pull over this bus.
It's basically Footloose.
Yeah, it is absolutely Footloose. To get him on the bus, right? So he has good friends. Then he's on the bus. He's playing with the little baby. Oh, he's so sweet, playing with the baby. Then he notices all these dogs. Oh, so cute, so sweet. He comes. His first interaction, his first speaking part is he's talking to his uncle, saying, "Oh, watch out! You don't want to throw your back out." So he's like a nice guy. Mm-hmm. He wants to go to business school or whatever. He's dresses up. He goes on 1,000 interviews. So he's actually a pretty decent guy. Throughout the movie, he turns into just a wishy-washy guy. He really doesn't have any pride in himself. He doesn't, I don't know, he has no conviction. He just exists. He talks about wanting to invent things or whatever. He wants to get that big break or whatever. Mm-hmm. You never see him try to do anything other than just sling drinks. Did you see him try to do anything aside from when he finds out that his, fling is pregnant? Now he's like, oh, I'm going to be a stand-up guy now.
Christina,
Sorry, I had to talk a lot because you were chewing.
He went to Jamaica to fulfill his dream of saving up money to get his own bar. Where were you when this movie was playing, Christina?
That's all I was doing.
Listen, he is constantly reading books about being successful and saving money and using your money wisely, how to make $1 million. He keeps books behind the bar that he reads in his downtime to about business and all these other things. What's really funny about the bus, that is so poorly edited and directed.
Oh my God, it's terrible.
Because I'm wait, where did the baby come from? He moved here. How long is this bus ride? But and I thought it was so funny because of all the things you can see in New York on a bus ride, it's 2 different scenes of people walking dogs.
Yeah.
And he has this weird smile on his face. It's super weird. At one point I wrote, wow, he's a regular Tess McGill. All he wants is to make it in New York City.
That's it.
City of dreams. Oh God. And I think he, it's interesting in the sense, he sort of definitely, I agree, he loses his way quite a bit with all the nonsense at the bar. And
Yeah.
this, is it a TGI Fridays?
I don't know what the hell it is.
It's like a chain bar, because all the waitresses are wearing the same shirts, right?
Yeah.
And
Does it not look like a different bar that he walks into originally?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Doesn't he?
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
So, but I think, though, I don't know, I respectfully disagree that I do think he had these convictions, but they were so singular. And it was about money. Because even when he's with Bonnie, he's like, when are you going to introduce me to your investor friends? And when are you going to introduce me to the...
That's true. I'll give him that.
Yeah. And so that was part of the draw of Bonnie. And then, so, because really, the only part of the equation that makes no sense for his goals is Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Jordan's like, oh, I'm pregnant, you're exactly right. It snaps him out. But it doesn't snap him out of, say, it doesn't give him conviction, to your point. It actually makes him realize another part of life that he has not been looking at with any reality. I think talk about Gina Gershon, but really before that, I really was gobsmacked by so much of the dialogue in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it is actually really effective. Some of it is really bad. It's wild to me. He's like, the waitresses hate me, Doug, without missing a beat. You wait till you've given them crabs, then they'll really hate you. I'm like, gross.
Gross. That's really something to brag about.
Exactly. And then Doug and Brian, they, I don't know, I know Tom Cruise is, universally handsome, but there are many scenes in this movie where Tom Cruise looks possessed.
Mm-hmm. When
he's like doing weird smiles at the patrons at the bar, and then Brian Brown looks like Beetlejuice to me. Mm-hmm. Like when he makes quote unquote seductive faces, he looks like friggin' Beetlejuice. And Tom Cruise makes like happy faces, and his face all scrunches up. I'm like, no one was around to be like, hey Tom, you look a little weird. Well, it
reminded me a lot of The Outsiders when he was such an overactor.
Yeah.
Right? It was like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to
it's like
jump
theater.
around.
It was like theater. Like he was like playing for the cheap seats, and like the facial expressions were so intense. And it's like, you don't look like you're having fun. You look like you're having a really bad bowel movement. You don't look like you're having fun at all right now.
Well, I really hated that first scene at the bar too, when everyone's screaming at him, screaming at. Like, that is not a realistic thing. Like, when then they start doing the close-ups of everybody's faces.
Well, and it's really not at a TGI Fridays.
No, I mean, people don't do that.
Come on, you wouldn't even allow that many. I mean, I remember, like, Christina, like, when we would go into Boston to, like, the Big E or whatever, or the Big Easy or whatever it was called. And yeah, there was times, but those places were packed. Or even go to, like, gay bars. You would never see such hostility.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Like, no one is...
You don't know how to make it? I mean, it's like...
Everyone's screaming. And now... So here's the other thing that I thought was, like, ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, well, first of all, it took them all of, like, 10 minutes to learn the tricks. Like, it didn't seem like it was, like, the next time he's at work, he's all of a sudden, everyone likes him now.
Yeah.
He dropped a drink. Oh, that was funny. Like, that was stupid. But the other thing was... So fast forward, they're in like this new bar, right? Cell block. They're dancing to the music. They're throwing bottles up in the air. They're making a drink, like one drink per 5 minutes.
Christina, same thought.
There's 7 million people there walking around going, oh, ha, 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 oh, ooh, ah, no. That's not how it works. Yeah. These people are going to be pissed because that's great that you can throw a fucking bottle in the air, but give me a goddamn drink.
That's right.
Because they're here to drink. There's 1 million people there. So all of a sudden they're happy because they're doing a little dance together? Yeah. No. That's not how that works. So that was like frustrating to me. That at least when he was a shitty bartender, he was trying. Now he's not trying. He's just putting on a goddamn show. Well,
he climbs on top of the bar and gives like a poem.
Alleged impromptu poem, which I don't believe for 1 second. So anyway, so that was my thought about that.
Christina, before I move on, so my last note on this page is, Gina Gershon. So Christina, you're a woman. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So.
Last I checked.
Christina, explain this logic to me. Gina Gershon sleeps, quote unquote, with Brian. Yes. And they have this wild night, rolling around in the sheets, falling off the bed. And Brian tells Doug that he has had sex with her. Now, Christina, in the bar in front of people all over the place, she is telling him she wants sex on the beach, but she doesn't mean the drink. She's being very flirtatious, very come hither, and doesn't care who knows it, and is hitting on him very blatantly and for all the world to see.
Yes.
She ends up having sex with him. Brian tells his friend Doug that he has had sex with her. She finds out that Brian told Doug she has had sex with him. So, because she didn't appreciate the disrespect, because he told his friend that they had had sex, she has sex with the friend.
Yeah.
Walk me through
Doesn't
that.
everybody do that? Well, that's one way to show some respect, right? To earn that respect by sleeping with the best friend.
They couldn't look more different. I don't know how. What I mean by that is like
it was a stupid reason.
She has no there's no standard. She has no sense of self or
none. That whole thing surrounding her was so stupid.
Yeah,
it was so stupid. Again with the bet.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
Again with the
that's
bet.
right. Yeah.
So there's the bet. And then the fact that like she slept with Brian because she was mad that he knew.
No, she slept with Doug.
I mean, sorry. Yeah. I was thinking Brian.
Yeah.
She slept with Doug because she was mad that Brian said something about that. Like that's stupid. And then for her to come around and tell him that's stupid. And then him getting all pissed off about it and quitting his job.
Really stupid.
Really stupid. Like the whole thing surrounding Gina Gershon was wicked stupid.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
He just needed the push. He needed the push to go to Jamaica.
It was really, like, there could have been
how about after they have sex and he's outside and he high fives himself? I mean, it's so weird.
It's such a
he's skipping down.
Bad character.
Skipping down the street.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Jamaica.
Okay, here we are in Jamaica.
And did you notice who was in the background?
Yes, the dad from 90210. I was waiting for him to have a speaking role.
1,000%.
Right? But he didn't.
He doesn't at all. But he's very much the central extra in that scene.
Yes, very central. Twice in 2 areas. Did you notice
That's
that?
right.
Yeah.
And so then Elizabeth Shue, Jordan Maroney, Jordan Mooney. She runs up to the bar. My friend needs help. She's unconscious. He jumped. Now, allegedly, I guess there was no one else. She is like a friggin' mile out on the beach. They're running so far.
Runs to the bartender.
The bartender. He is the only bartender on duty. There was a wall of people surrounding him. She's like, my friend needs help. None of this makes sense either. He could simply pick up the phone and call for someone that could actually help this girl. He has no clue what kind of help she really needs. And then, as they're running, then Jordan drops the bomb like, yeah, she's drank too much champagne. I'm like, bitch, you do not pull me from my place of work because your friend drank too much champagne.
Right.
That she didn't even get from me.
Right. Seriously. Yeah. Where'd she get the goddamn champagne?
I mean, none of it made sense. And also, they were way out on that beach. They were running.
You know what didn't make sense to me? They're running for miles or whatever, right?
Yeah.
To get to this woman who's passed out. He takes one look at her, touches her cheek. She's going to be fine. Who? How? What? He has all this medical training and he's a bartender?
There's no lifeguard on the beach?
How
really?
would he ever know? He didn't even take her pulse. He didn't, how does he know she didn't have a seizure? He is absolutely, and then he's like, we'll call an ambulance just to be on the safe side. Oh, okay, now you are like this medical professional.
Well, fine, calling an ambulance.
And now
they wasted all this time.
Oh my God.
They wasted all this time from an ambulance. He could have just said, let me call an ambulance and I'll go over there with you. There's no thought process.
No, doesn't make any sense at all.
This is a weird note. And yet it rings true throughout the entire movie. Okay. From the sex scene with Gina Gershon to all of the quote-unquote dates with Jordan.
Sure.
Right? Did you notice how, physical and rough they were? And, flinging their bodies around? Even on the dates. Not the sex scene.
Right.
But, with Brian and Jordan, he kept like, he would like trip her and make her fall. He threw her in the water, and then she tripped. She like flung him down on the ground.
I loved that when she did that, by the way.
But he kept pushing her down, like in the water.
Yeah, there was a lot of wrestling.
Oh, roughhousing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is really
I don't know if it was just their way of just getting physical.
But the reason I'm bringing this up is because the sex scene with Gina Gershon was also like really like rolling all around, falling off the bed. Like,
let me tell you
were
something.
they even having sex?
When that sex scene first started, like, and she started like, it was like laughing. Like, I don't know if they were tickling each other or something.
Yeah.
It looked violent to me at first.
Thank you.
And I'm like, is he raping her right now?
Oh God.
Like, I didn't. I mean, obviously he wasn't, but I'm like, oh my God! It reminded me of Fatal Attraction. Fatal Attraction, yes. Yeah. When he does have that rough sex with her.
Yeah.
It almost looked like that for a second, and then all of a sudden I was like, wait, no, I think that she's laughing.
Yeah.
But basic
instinct. Basic
instinct.
Yeah.
Yes, basic
yeah,
instinct.
it's super
Sorry,
weird.
yes.
But it's a consistent thing in this where there's sort of an aggressiveness
Very
towards
physical.
women. Because even with Bonnie, if you remember, they're fighting and she slaps him, and he'd already been punched in the nose, and she slaps him and hits his nose. He holds up two fists like he's gonna like punch her and beat her up.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, what is this guy's fucking problem with women? He has a very real issues with women in this movie.
It feels like the writers of this movie had very real issues with women.
Oh, perhaps.
Let's talk about Bonnie for a second, because I did.
About who? Wait, Bonnie.
Bonnie.
Yeah. Okay.
I really liked Bonnie, but my one question was, what did she need him for? Out of all of the people in the world to be like her lackey, what was so special about him?
I think he's supposed to be drop dead gorgeous.
Okay, maybe this is a controversial subject, okay? And I get it. Most people think that he is gorgeous. I don't think he is all that.
And we just lost half our audience.
I said it. I know, I said it. His mouth is weird. His nose is weird. His eyes are beady. And I just don't, and especially, I think now, I actually think he's more attractive now, and I know he's had some work done with his teeth and stuff, but back then, his whole face is like squished in and is kind of pointy. And I never, I get that he's attractive, but I feel like he's more like slightly more attractive than average.
All I can think is that they had really good sex, which is just so funny because you never see that sex scene. Why? Because she's an older woman.
Right. God forbid.
Holly, like, this is where it's like this, like, certain, like, where so many movies just drop the ball so bad.
Yeah.
It's like, why? Because she's 10 years older than them, they can't show a sex scene.
She's gorgeous.
She is beautiful and great body.
Yeah.
She actually cares about her body, right? She's exercising.
Yes.
And also interesting, she's incredibly successful.
Yes.
And yet they're not showing that sex scene.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It wasn't her daddy's money.
That's right.
This was her own money.
Yeah.
Successful businesswoman, which is why it makes me feel like she's smart.
Yep.
And she
why?
So it makes me wonder, like, why does she have him around? Like, yes, he's probably good in bed.
Yeah.
But like, I just didn't get it. After one night, she comes back and she's like, you're not gonna toss me aside, are you? Like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, what is so special about him?
I don't know. I just
don't get it.
But I will say my favorite scene is the one when they're in the art gallery. I actually thought he was excellent in that scene. I think it's his best scene in this movie. And I loved the acting. I think it all felt very real. Even like the extras around them. It felt very like, I'm like, where's that movie? I want to see more of that stuff where it's like,
that was really good.
Because to your point, he's an awful character, but now the awfulness is on display.
Yes.
And that was
the
like,
immaturity,
it needed more. Yeah, and it needed more.
The immaturity I liked,
being
like, so immature. Yeah.
And it surfaced through that moment. And it's like, and that's where it was like, you know what? Here's my big problem with this movie. Now, I'm going to say something that's going to shock you, Christina.
Yes.
I liked it more than I did before because I hated it before.
Interesting.
I liked it. I thought it was, in terms of, it's a really, like, bad movie, but it's I found it entertaining. It held my attention upon rewatch. And I will also say, like, but the biggest problem this movie has is that it is consistently, except for one, maybe two quick scenes, this movie is always on his side. And I think it's and I think that's a big mistake.
Yes.
Because the only two scenes this movie is not on his side is, and I laughed out loud, when Jordan sees them and she goes to the beach by herself, and it is a long effing take where she cannot cry to save her life. I love Elizabeth Shue.
There's like one little tear
that is just fighting. It's fighting to come out.
And I'm like, is she gonna
cry or no?
It was like, talk about being on the edge of your seat. Like,
that
is
was
she gonna cry?
That was the whole point of that scene, to get her to cry, and she couldn't cry. So, but that, I'm like, oh my God, they're actually showing like the damage he can do, right? Mm-hmm. And the other scene is the gallery, where everyone's, I mean, you know, he signed up for this. He signed up to be her little fuck boy. He's the boy toy. Yeah. And he said yes, and he's, poor baby, he's wearing the most expensive suits, you know, this woman can find. All he has to do is carry her coat and have sex with her. Yeah. Like, I mean, he's a young man, so it's like...
She won't introduce you. Poor thing.
Yeah, so ridiculous. And she is right every step of the way. When he says, why didn't you introduce me to your sales managers? And she's like, listen, I can't, let's wait 6 months. I can't just be like, hey, here's his qualifications are, here's my boyfriend. Yeah. She's like, I will lose credibility and you will too. And she says it in a much better way than I just did. But she's exactly right.
Well, because she wants
him. Well, she wants him to be treated with respect too.
That's right.
And yet he doesn't care. He just like, throw me in, coach.
No.
Like, he's so ridiculous.
He is a terrible character.
Now, I want to say, Cocktail, one thing I remembered about that one time I saw it, and I know I've quoted this before, I think this is a really great, interesting line that has come back to me over the years through parts of my life, where it's like, she says, it doesn't have to be this way. And he says, everything has to end badly, otherwise they wouldn't end. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so true, where it's like, in that scene, like, they're outside and it's just gotten really dark. Like, he's got into a fight at the gallery and all that. Mm-hmm. And it's just so, like, right. Because I think in our lives, we've both had breakups. Sure. Where it's, and I remember you used to say, it's like, if you cry, if you cry in a breakup, it's not over. Oh, excuse me. Ooh.
Yikes. What's happening over there?
My stomach. I'm like, I haven't eaten anything today. But I think it was something like that, where it's like, because there's so much emotion involved, but it's like, when it's really over, like, there's no tears, it's just really cold and mean, and it's like, it reminds me of that idea of, like, you know, if in relationships in particular, like, if things are just stringing along and it's not it's like they're gonna end probably really badly, because otherwise it wouldn't end.
Right.
And I think I really like that scene. I like that line.
I like that line too. Yeah.
And I even like his not the fists up, but I like his reaction to being slapped in a nose that just got punched.
Yeah, that was good. I know he really, really felt it. I felt that was one of his stronger acting moments in that movie.
Yeah, but I love Bonnie. I think she's great.
I really liked Bonnie too. My only problem was, like, why would she choose
why him? Yeah.
Out of everybody.
I talked a lot. Do you want to jump in with any notes?
Let's see what I have for notes. I haven't even really looked at my notes
yet. I have a lot more about Jordan.
Oh my God, those eyebrows. I have a big note about those eyebrows.
Jordan's eyebrows?
No, Tom Cruise's eyebrows. In that moment when he was at the very beginning of the movie and he's interviewing, it's like two freaking caterpillars on his face. It was unbelievable. I'm like, oh my God, are they going to clean him up?
Oh my God.
I did feel like one of my biggest criticisms of this movie is, where was all of the fun tossing the drinks back and forth and the making? There was so little of that.
Yeah,
and I feel like,
agree.
thinking about Cocktail, it feels like that was like the whole movie. And it was like, no, not really.
I thought they lit things on fire and like jumped up on the bar. I thought it was like the male Coyote Ugly in my mind. And it so was not.
And it really wasn't at all. I was like, whoa, what happened there? So that was very surprising. I did say that all those people with two dancing bartenders, I would have been completely pissed not to get a drink. Oh, I thought it was really funny. So I went to Jamaica for our anniversary. For our honeymoon.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was really funny that they had Red Stripe everywhere.
Okay.
And that is 1,000% accurate. That's the only beer that is on the island of Jamaica is Red Stripe.
Wow.
So I was impressed that they did that. I did think that they did have some good chemistry, Elizabeth Shue and Tom Cruise. I did think that they had some good chemistry. I liked their conversations and all that fun stuff. I didn't think that they should have ended up together because, again, I just didn't feel like this guy was anything. Oh, excuse me. So I feel like they shouldn't. I just didn't think they should have ended up together. I just didn't see how she could have, like, accepted him back. After just because they didn't invest so much of it. It was like 2 days.
Well, but remember too, like, I mean, she doesn't exactly accept him back.
No, but she's like, I do not want to talk to you. I'm not going to talk to you. And then the next thing you know, she's inviting him back to her apartment so that they could talk. Like, you could have said it all on the street. Like, you could have just been like, no, say your apology.
Well, what did she say to him? She says something like, well, he's like, well, then why did you tell me to come up here?
So you can just throw me out of your apartment.
Yeah,
maybe. I believed that she didn't give a shit about him, though. Like, I really did. I believed that she was just like, no, I'm done. Like, it wasn't like she wanted him to win her back.
Well, it was also, I mean, like, she dumps all that food on him.
What
and
a waste of food, too,
right?
Huh? I was thinking about that from a restaurant perspective. Like, that's somebody's food.
Right. Totally. Well, so she's also a bad waitress because she knows Brian is not going to leave. So just help the patrons.
Yes.
Be like, excuse me, waitress, just a minute.
I'll be there in a minute. Like,
it's
my God, you gotta yell at them.
Don't yell. She's yelling at them when she knows Brian Flanagan is not going to move his ass until she talks to him. So just help your damn customers.
Yeah,
he's not going to leave.
Help the damn customers.
Little note. Oh, good.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, like, I just felt like this movie went on and on and on and on. This movie was 103 minutes. If I didn't know ahead of time, I would have thought it was like 230 minutes. Like, it was so freaking long to me.
I don't know. I was entertained. I really was.
Not. I just felt like, when is this ending?
Oh my God, Christina.
Yeah, it was not a good movie.
Well, he's an awful character. He's a terrible movie character. Terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the worst. I think one of the worst we've ever seen in the podcast.
In fact, he was, to me, he was a worse character, and this is a strong statement, than Doug.
Oh, I agree.
Doug,
I agree.
at least, he was who he was.
But Doug also knew his limitations.
Yes.
And he could also be like, I fucked up.
Yes.
And he kills himself, but
he had some reflection on himself in his choices. And he knew who he was, and he didn't have any of these, like, dreams that he was pretending to go after.
I have to go back to Jordan. It's the same scene when she does bring him back.
Yeah.
My note there is like, holy shit. Every square inch of her apartment is filled with, she's like slowly like asphyxiating herself with all those paint fumes.
Oh my God, I know. Isn't that so funny?
Cannot be good for the baby. She's
No!
painting next to her. Like, she has, like, so many paintings and all these easels. And it's, like, right near her bed. She's, like, inhaling paint fumes while she's pregnant. Not a good move. Jordan Mooney. And then she has an amazing line. He talks about her paintings. And I just wrote, oh, boy. She says, my name's Mooney, not Monet.
Oh, that was so funny.
Out loud. It's so bad. Oh, what was this one? I wrote, excuse me. Oh my God, he's so rude, Brian Flanagan.
Gosh.
When he goes into the parents' house, the building, that the doorman is on the what do you call it? The guy at the desk is on the phone. He's on the phone. And Brian's like, excuse me, sir. I know you're on the phone right now. And it's like, no shit, stop talking. The man is on the phone. Like, it's so out of control.
Yeah, he's so self-centered. There's just not a whole lot of likable. Even at the end, I just didn't care about him. Really just didn't care
Well,
about
when he
him.
says to Jordan's father, he's like, she's at a point right now, she can't, she suffers with when it comes to trust. She makes bad decisions and trusts the wrong people. And he says, she can trust me. I laughed out loud. I was like, really?
Really? What gave you that idea that she could trust you? Because you said it once?
Or how about this? You're a condom-hating cheater.
Right?
Like, right? I mean, he got her
Right?
pregnant.
Where's his freaking
Got her
condom?
pregnant,
Exactly.
and then for $50, like, went to seduce a woman. So I just wrote, Brian is toxic. He says to her at one point, I deserve a second chance. I'm like, no, you fucking don't. You already broke her heart. You couldn't be faithful for 2 days, you asshole.
Exactly.
Then,
like, for $50.
And then he says, and as far as how I feel about you, I guess you'll never know. I'm like, don't let the door hit you on the way out, you asshole.
Seriously.
Like, don't be dramatic. That is so drama. I guess you'll never know. It's like, you're kind of just told her. Did you forget what you said 5 minutes ago? You told her everything.
I know, it's ridiculous.
He just said, he poured his heart out. I knew from the first second I saw you, like, whatever. And let's not forget Brian Flanagan, the stand-up guy who pretended to be blind and homeless outside the diner waiting for her. Awful.
Awful. Awful.
I'm going to pretend to be blind while I wait for my
I think
ex.
that would be super fun.
My ex, not even ex-girlfriend.
Not even fling.
Fling, my ex-fling.
Vacation fling.
We need to talk about the death of Doug.
Yes.
So I remember way back.
I forgot he died.
Okay, so see, I remember that scene feeling like it was 20 minutes long back in the day. Oh, wow.
It was like
I remember actually watching this happen. I thought it was pills. I forgot he slit his throat with broken glass.
Mm-hmm.
I did think it was super short, very bloody, and the crying and screaming was very loud.
Yes.
So I put a star next to this note. I wrote, he effing touched the blood with his fingers. Like, what else could it have been but blood? It's a puddle of red liquid surrounding your friend's neck.
And it was everywhere.
It was around his neck. It wasn't like
a little tiny puddle.
It was covering the table. What did he think it was? And how do you even know touching it, oh, it's blood? Like, what? Like, it's so insane.
It was... I know. And he didn't even play it off as, I'm in shock, I'm going to touch the blood. Like, it didn't even... I mean, there was sometimes... I feel like there was a movie recently...
Doug. Yeah.
There was a movie recently where they just, embraced the person when they... I can't remember what it was now, but somebody was, murdered and... God, I can't remember now what it was.
Was it Ghost?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think it was when she was just hugging him and she was all over him. Blood was all getting over on her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
But, oh my God, he couldn't even pull that off.
I know. I wrote, hell of a security system at that building. There's not even a peephole in the door. That's so weird to me.
It's so weird. I know.
And you have a doorman, you have the front desk, you have security, then you have a butler or whatever, but you don't have a peephole in the door. It's so insane. Going back to my violence against women theme in this movie, he yells, so the guy pushes, or doesn't really push her. He sort of grabs her, Jordan, and these are the words, and they're very important, Christina.
Yeah.
Brian Flanagan says, "Get your hands off her. She's pregnant." As if it would be fine if she wasn't pregnant. Did you catch that?
Oh my God, you're right.
What does it matter if she's pregnant? So it's okay to manhandle her if she's not pregnant?
Okay, yeah.
It's all this. It's the whole theme of the movie.
It's the whole thing. It's exactly right. Exactly.
Treat women like shit.
And one thing I thought of too was, did she let the family know yet that she was pregnant? Did he just out her? But it's not that it matters. If you whatever. But that was one thing I was like, oh, I wonder if he even knows.
Then I have, oh my God, the dialogue at the wedding reception. Seriously? That's
Oh my
that's
God.
what I wrote.
So
Seriously.
awful.
They're so goofy. And she goes, he's like, you're going to divorce me in 3 weeks. Would you ever fucking say that at a wedding reception?
At this point in their relationship,
it's
to like,
so
hello?
fractured.
You guys have known each other for literally like a week.
Well, no, at that point, no, she's...
Maybe a month.
Oh, that's right, because she's not even showing
No,
yet. I'm
she's
getting
not.
it confused with the other scene. Yeah.
No,
so
she's
at the
not even
reception, at the reception, she's like, and then she goes, he's like, you're going to divorce me in 3 weeks. And she goes, you're going to divorce me when I get fat and ugly. And he says, well, just not too fat. And she goes, very fat, and you're going to love it. And I just wrote,
God, I
wrote, holy fuck.
Yeah,
Like,
seriously.
It's so corny and weird and cheesy. And also, how shallow can you be? Both of you. Both Jordan and Brian. Like, I'm going to get fat and ugly. Well, not too fat. I mean, oh my God. I think... If someone ever said,
your wedding day,
don't get too fat.
That's not romantic?
Don't get too fat. She's pregnant, you piece of shit. Like, she's gonna gain weight.
God. Yeah.
Christina, what else have you got?
That's all I have for notes, believe it or not.
My last note is Tom Cruise shouldn't sing nor sing along to anything ever.
Oh. And, and the other thing was that, I'm sorry, I don't have it written down, but the freaking poem thing.
Yeah.
Oh, no. That is not impromptu. Nobody thinks that is impromptu.
Well, my huge pet peeve is, like, in the scene just exemplifies it when they're walking, him and Doug are walking down the street, and they're like, and Brian is singing along to some song, and he's singing so loud and so badly, and he's so drunk, but he's like, obviously it's, he's acting, so he's pretending to be drunk, and he's really pretending to have a fun time.
Yeah.
And then Doug falls down the stairs.
Right.
Yeah. It's just so crazy, but it's like, I don't like movie scenes like that where it's like, we're having so much fun, and you can just tell
we're the best friends ever.
Oh my God. Because that can go really well, and it can go, when it doesn't, it goes really, really bad.
Yeah.
And I think he had a problem just acting drunk anyway.
Well, I don't even think that they were friends anyway. Like, they never seemed like friends ever.
Yeah.
And if you have that relationship and you're drunk, you're just going to be more angry, not like super friendly. But that's just me.
So I know you said you liked it less.
Yes, I liked it less. And you liked it more?
I did. Slightly more. I think if you watch this as, like, an irresponsible coming-of-age movie, it's, like, passable entertainment. I do think there's some really, real doozies of dialogue in this. But I think the big problem is, like I said before, I think the problem is that the movie is totally on his side. Mm-hmm. Like, he can do no wrong in the movie's eyes, and it really treats women really poorly. At the same time, it's such a bad movie, but I was entertained for what it was. I mean, it's like this cornball 80s wannabe drama. But a bit of trivia. The original story was written by a real bartender. Mm-hmm. And it was much, much darker. And it was about greed in the 80s and the cult of celebrity. And Brian Brown signed up for it, as did Kelly Lynch, as supporting players. And Kelly Lynch, played, what was her name in this?
Oh, it was the wife.
The wife, yeah. Carrie. So, Carrie had a whole backstory and the whole thing. And then Brian Brown, his whole thing was like, greed in the 80s and like, this sort of like, he had a lot of success as a bartender, but then he found himself in this sort of like cliche kind of chain restaurant world.
Yeah.
But it was very much, much darker. And then Tom Cruise was like, I want to do it. And Disney got involved. So they had to Disneyfy the whole thing.
Leave it to Disney.
Yeah, so it became much lighter, much happier, and so on and so forth. This movie has a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. 9. That is a train wreck. That's like truly the lowest you go is 0. So
that's so funny.
So out of 100, it has a 9.
That makes me
imagine getting a 9 on a test.
And it's interesting. That surprises me because I feel like this movie is beloved. Do you not feel like that?
I think people do. I think there are a lot of people that really like this movie.
Yeah, I agree. I think that people really love this movie. So
oh.
it surprises me that it's a 9%.
The budget was $20 million.
Mm-hmm.
Box office was $170 million.
Insane.
$170 million.
That's yeah.
It's insane. So that year, it's interesting. So Tom Cruise that year, the raspberries, the Golden Raspberries, picked Cocktail as the worst movie of the year, but the Oscars that year went for Rain Man the same year. So Tom Cruise, and it remains, I believe, the only actor to have starred in the best and the worst movie of the year.
That's funny. It was actually funny. I was watching it, and Matt was working, so he was in like the dining room, so he wasn't watching the movie, but he could hear it. And at one point he goes, "Did this movie get an Oscar nomination?" And I'm like, "Oh God, I hope not."
For Kokomo.
So maybe it was Kokomo, So he might have been I know he knew what movie I was watching and everything, but I was just like, Jesus, I hope not. But it probably spoke to Tom Cruise's popularity and all that stuff, and with Rain Man.
Yeah. It's funny, I read a couple things about this movie that people were like, if you watch this movie right after Top Gun, it could almost be a continuing story.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, isn't it funny? Because he leaves military, or he's in the military. That's right, he was in the military. And it starts off he's leaving some military job, and then he becomes a bartender. Wow. Yeah, isn't that funny? So that's it. So just really quick as a timestamp on this. So Tom Cruise did Top Gun, then The Color of Money, then Cocktail, then Rain Man, then Born on the 4th of July.
Wow.
Elizabeth Shue did...
It was a good run for him, except for the cocktail stuff.
And then Elizabeth Shue did Karate Kid, a movie called Link. It was a horror movie about a gorilla, monkey. And then Adventures in Babysitting, then Cocktail, and then Back to the Future 2 and Back to the Future 3. And that is all my notes. I have a match game.
I have an FMK.
Ooh!
Yes.
Who should go first?
It doesn't make a difference. I'll go. What'd you say?
Do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. All right, so it's not what you think.
No.
All right, here's my FMK.
Okay.
Mr. Mooney, Elizabeth Shue's dad.
Okay.
Uncle Pat.
I gotta hate you.
And the finance teacher, who was played by... Paul Benedict from the Jeffersons.
What was his name, the teacher?
Congratulations.
Professor what?
It just says finance teacher on IMDb.
Believe it or not, this is pretty easy.
Wait, I gotta guess what you think.
Oh, okay. This is actually pretty easy.
Okay, I'm gonna say, okay, I got it.
Right at the bat, I usually start with a kill on this. Killing the finance teacher.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he's awful. And also just really unattractive. And then I'm going to marry Mr. Mooney. And then I'm going to fuck Uncle Pat. Because I just feel like he's fun.
I got
Oh,
it!
yay! Wait, but when
because when you said that, I was thinking I did F, but I didn't.
Okay.
See, like I didn't, no crossing out or anything. So
all right.
I did it.
Ready for the match game?
Good job.
Oh, well, is that what you would say?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
I actually liked Uncle Pat. He was realistic.
He was funny. I thought he was really funny.
And like the fact that he never gave a buyback, like he never, like if you could order 5 drinks, he would never give you a free one. All right, so match game time.
Okay.
Christina, this is really quite the question.
Okay.
Brian's Bar, Cocktails and Dreams, which is the worst name for a bar ever. Cocktails and Dreams. Well, their newest cocktail is pretty crazy. Christina?
Oh, how crazy was it?
Thank you for asking.
Sorry.
Well, I'm sorry. Fuck, I already fucked it up. Okay.
Jesus.
Brian's Bar, Cocktails and Dreams, has a new cocktail.
Okay.
It's pretty crazy.
How crazy is it?
It's called The Nightmare. You don't wake up hungover. You wake up blank.
It's called The Nightmare? Okay.
This is a good one. Most part might not match.
I don't know if this
going
is
to
match.
a dark place. We'll see.
It's the first thing I thought of.
The Nightmare.
All right, ding.
Oh, you're still writing though. You just
no. I just had to.
Well, the new cocktail's pretty crazy. It's called The Nightmare. You don't wake up hungover. You wake up blank.
Exhausted.
Why?
Because you're up all night. Because you have a nightmare.
Oh, I wrote in a puddle of blood.
Ew! eyes slashed because
Oh my! Hello.
Trash gets slashed.
Oh my God! Perfect.
I almost did
Why
that.
didn't you?
I don't know. I gave it too much thought. Sometimes you have to go with
Doug.
gut.
R.I.P. to Doug.
Yes.
Oh my God! And
oh
that.
my God!
Oh
We
what?
didn't even talk about what we're gonna do on Patreon.
Oh yeah, Patreon. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So. The big drink. So remember that
this is exciting,
Crystal.
guys.
Is that her name? Crystal or Coral? What was her name?
Coral.
Coral. Oh, because Crystal from Showgirls.
Oh my God! Oh my God! That's so funny. She played Crystal on
And Coral. I know.
Oh my God! Yeah.
So Coral wanted a Sex on the Beach, but Brian Flanagan didn't think she could handle it, so he was making her a turquoise blue.
Good job.
And we have found the recipe
Yes,
for
we have the
turquoise
recipe.
blue, and we are going to do a little selfie moment,
Yep.
video, where we walk you through, not a tutorial, but we're going to walk you through the recipe of how you can make a turquoise blue.
You know it.
So turn to Patreon.
Available only
Only on Patreon. Patreon.com/oldroommates. Thank you for your patronage.
And that's that.
That's it. Cocktail.
And that's it for this episode of Old Roommates. Thank you for listening. For bonus content, please visit us at patreon.com/oldroommates.
And follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, @oldroommates. Thanks for listening. Until next time.